What's going on, Rebel family? So, I want to get in here and get a live stream. It's been a while. Man, I'm struggle streaming already. I wanted to um, set up take some time on Saturdays to look at some of the solutions to some of the issues that we're having in the Black community. And not saying that, um, I have all the answers or anything like that, but want to add some solutions into the mix. And I figured I'd do it on Saturdays because Fridays are the days that I guess Fridays are my day. Sundays, it's real saturated with a bunch of live streams on Sunday evenings. Plus, that's my family day. I'm usually chilling with the family. I don't even see a lot of the live streams that I would like to um, view on Sundays. I don't get to catch those live on Sundays just because I'm chilling with the family. So it's phone down, phone off, or whatever I'm doing, or I'm not going to be on a live stream. I'll tell you that much. Pretty much on a Sunday, hanging out with the family mostly all day Sunday. So I figured Saturdays will be the best day to do it because just like tonight. There's a good boxing card on. I'm gonna watch it. I haven't really watched UFC in a while. Haven't seen any really interesting cards or fights that I wanted to see, but boxing has been hot for the past couple of months. So just like tonight, I want to get in here, jump in here, and do this live stream, and then prepare to uh, check out the Better BF Joe Smith fight. So I want to get a chance to just talk to the family, because I think uh, I want to get a chance to talk to the family. And you know I think a lot of times uh, we have we have a lot of panels and a lot of videos and a lot of content where we just discuss, is this an issue, is this an issue, is that an issue? And uh, you know we don't just, or they are opinion shows. Well, what do you think about this, what do you think about that? And I am a network engineer, and I like to get right to the solutions of things. A lot of times we know you figure out the cause and then you find the solution. It's just that simple for me. And I've been seeing this. I've seen it started, this whole topic that I'm starting with on this first episode here. It's been around for a while. It's about 2019 is where I really saw it pick up. Is Pan Africanism dead? You'll see that here a lot, to where, oh, Pan Africanism is dead. Pan Africanism is dead. You know it doesn't work for Black Americans. It's one sided. I'm sure you guys, if you're on Twitter, primarily where this takes place or this occurs, YouTube as well, but Twitter primarily, if you're there, then you've seen this, or you've heard this, or you've picked up on it. And the Black community is just, I mean, everything you're arguing about, everything, it's nothing but arguments left and right, arguments left and right. And I wanted to start here because I actually think there is a lot of benefit, at least from what I know. And I will admit when something is not my forte, or is not I'm not a expert in the matter. And I'm not a expert in the matter, subject matter expert rather. I'm not an expert in Pan Africanism, but logically it makes sense, right? I'm going to let a Pan Africanist define it, but it logically just makes sense to me. And let's get one of the brothers to explain what it is. This is Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm sure you guys know who this is. Um, he's a Pan Africanist. He states that he's the Prince of Pan Africanism, but let's let him define what it is.
Basic principles. Number one, all African people, regardless of skin color, regardless of language, regardless of culture, or nationality, or religion, are one family. That's principle number one. We are family first. You and I are not the same shade, but we're both African. Family first. I might speak Spanish, you might speak English, you might be Muslim, I might be Christian, but we are family first. That's principle number one. Principle number two, we identify with that African family before we identify with any other allegiance. So I'm an African who happens to be a Christian. I'm not a Christian who happens to be an African. Our Africanity is first. And principle number three, as Africa goes, so goes the rest of us. We believe that Africa must be a part of our political and economic strategy, because we cannot improve ourselves better than the condition of Africa. The children around the world will never excel the mothership in terms of how they are treated. Chinese people get respect no matter where they live, because China gets respect. Anglo-Saxons get respect no matter where they live, because Europe gets respect. If Black people in America want respect, we don't have to go back to Africa. Not all of us, but we better help Africa improve herself so she can protect us.
Okay, so that makes a lot of logical sense, correct? Right? If we see how, if we just open our eyes and see how things are going in the world, just world politics, it doesn't matter what language or what country or what nationality or what ethnicity or religion um, that the European or white people, whatever you want to, whichever term you want to use, they all practice, or they all get on the same page. When push comes to shove, they will get on the same page. Why is it that black people are complaining about racism no matter where they're at, whether they're in Europe, China, here in the Americas, they're they're talking about racism, or being um, abused and misused and so forth, oppressed in every single place on the planet, because they all, when push comes to shove, they may have their internal wars like we see now with Russia and Ukraine. They may have their little spats or whatever, but when it comes down to it, the Ukrainians, what do? They had they actually practice anti-black racism, by not letting the Africans who were stuck in the Ukraine get on the trains and leave, uh, the impending war. So they all get on the same page, and they play as a team, as Dr. Claude Anderson would say. They play as a team. So it would only make sense that if white people or the Europeans of the planet are 1/10 of the planet's population, the other 9/10 of people, what you want to call them, non-white or black or whatever you want, whatever term you want to use, African, whatever, in a sense, right? Are, I don't like to use this phrase, but some may identify with it. Use Are there colored people or people of color? I hate that term, but nonetheless, then those people should all play as a team as well. It doesn't make sense that you have this numerically inferior group playing as a team, and this is why they're so successful, because the numerically superior group is not playing as a team. So in that regard, Pan-Africanism, you know you don't have to be, as it's become kind of a caricature, and unfortunately the brother Umar has kind of played into that, as serious as he could be, and as um devout of a practitioner of Pan-Africanism, and how staunch he is with promoting it. He himself has actually uh, kind of made it in terms of a joke. But to answer the question, I mean, it's an obvious answer, right? All these people saying Pan Africanism is dead and this, that, and the third. Obviously, nothing is dead that is still being practiced. It is still being practiced, so it obviously isn't dead. Has it made and I'm saying it as if it's a person, but the people who are the practitioners of it, or who are actually Pan Africanists, have they made mistakes in practicing it or whatever? Of course, obviously, they are human beings. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And I think, to me, and just to jump right to the chase, I think that is probably the biggest downfall of uh, the movement, because at least from my knowledge, it has been around for at least 100 years. And I had Umar define what he thinks of it, and from what I understand, Pan-Africanism, obviously, like pretty much anything else on the planet, you can ask 10 different people and they may give you 10 different answers, and it may have a few different avenues, or it may have a few different um, focal points or things that people focus on in terms of it. I even had a brother once say it was just an ideology, and I stated to him, how can an ideology ever defeat something, that white supremacy, defeat something that is being practiced physically? It is an ideology and it has a physical practice to it. I said there has to be a counter to this, and this is when I was first getting into this type of knowledge or what have you. Just made logical sense to me. If there's a system that has it's an ideology and it's backed up by physical um, practices, then there has to be, in order to defeat that system, there has to be a counter system to that, not just an ideology, but ideological practice, but it also has to have physical practice as well. And this is what I was telling the brother, but just logically, it made sense. You got to have a counter to it. And, but anyway, so that's just one of the things that, I thought of. So like I was saying with the mistakes, I think what I am seeing here, and I will be honest with you, there are a lot of people who will say that they used to be a Pan-Africanist. I've never been one. I am not one now. I do have that mindset. And I learned that to be a Pan Africanist, you must actually be a member of a Pan Africanist or grassroots organization. I have never been a part of any of those organizations. So, therefore, I would not classify myself as a Pan Africanist. But Dr. Umar has, and so that's why I let him speak for Pan Africanists. So, I'm going to play the clips I'm going to play is from they're going to be from brothers who are part of the Pan-Africanist movement, who are parts of organizations, and it is no shot out. It is no shot to any of these brothers. I respect a lot of what Umar does, and I definitely respect the brother that I'm going to be playing most of the clips from, because it is he who actually, which made sense to me again when he made a definition, or at least when he defined, look, you can't just say you're Pan-Africanist. You have to be part of a Pan-Africanist organization. It's like, okay, cool. There's solid definitions, because for so long, the people that I would encounter didn't have a real definition for it. So, and again, why am I saying this on this channel? Because I really haven't covered, uh, gone into detail or gone into depth about this type of content, because the content that I typically make, it's been about relationships. It's been about relationships, and in particular marriage, and how brothers can avoid some of the mistakes that I and or others have made in the past in terms of relationships. So why am I doing this now? Because I think that um, we have a lot of people adding to the conversations of relationships. And I wanted to start here just from the standpoint of, how can we ever expect to fix relationships between Black men and Black women if the whole community is arguing? Everybody's arguing here or there about something. There's diaspora wars, where you know, I'm Black American, I'm from the Caribbean, I'm from Africa, and we're arguing about who has a culture, who doesn't have culture, who's this, who's that. There's arguments about lineage, there's arguments about ideology, there's arguments about, uh, of course, the gender thing is not, there's so the whole community is arguing, and um, we have to find a solution somewhere. We can't just keep we just can't keep doing the same thing. A friend of mine once said that, obviously, if you want to keep getting the results that you're getting, keep doing what you're doing. We're not having very good results in the things that we're doing, so we have to do something different. Now, at least from my knowledge, the community, or the Black community collectively, or the majority of the community, has not totally embraced um, the concept of, or Pan-Africanism in terms of an Afrocentric ideology to every single problem that we may or may not have. And that's obviously because, like myself, we aren't knowledgeable enough in it. But to those that are, then, this is one of the reasons I am, just from a outside point of view, that for those who do have the knowledge, there needs to be some things I think should be done differently. So let's keep moving here. You know, again, I think the biggest thing that anyone who's a Pan-Africanist who may hear this has to do is to acknowledge the problems that there is amongst the Pan-Africanists or amongst that we've seen, and then address those issues. So let's keep going. I think one of the issues that I've seen is that Pan Africanists can be a little bit elitist, be a little bit of there's a little arrogance there that, hey, we are the smartest people in the room. And I'm going to share a tweet here that I've seen. And this is coming from the brother Omawali Africa. And he has a YouTube channel. Very good channel, excellent content. I advise anyone who's listening to this to subscribe to the brother. But he said something back in March, and it took me aback. He said, "It's beyond brain rot at this point. I've had to remove myself from so many conversations in this app-induced idiocracy." And then he says, "A lot of y'all ain't gonna make it, and it's sad to watch." Now, I agree with him about just some of the stuff on that you see on Twitter is kind of sad, right? It is you just can't engage with it. You can't I can't listen to certain content. I've stated this before on some videos that I did a video, I think a live stream about toxic women in the Black Manosphere, and some of some of the some of the some of the videos and some of the it's just toxic, and I'm just like, okay, I just can't even watch this. I just have to unsubscribe to the channel because it's just arguments, 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 constant. And so I agree with him having to remove yourself from some of the conversations. But what I didn't get was he said a lot of y'all ain't gonna make it, and it's sad to watch. What does that mean? That a lot of y'all ain't gonna make it? I don't I don't really understand what that means. And again, I started to tweet him and ask him what it meant. And I may, after I do this, just to get my thoughts out. What exactly does that mean? Because if you are fighting to replace the system of white supremacy with a system of justice, then even the people who he's stating here who ain't gonna make it, they will benefit from the system of white supremacy being ended. Now, what system what's going to replace that? What is it going to be? How is it going to look? Right? What is there going to, a system of justice? Who's going to manage that system of justice? But those questions aside, because like I said, look, the reason why I didn't ask the question then is because I didn't get my thoughts out, and I'm really just getting them out now, speaking out loud. But does it mean that they're gonna within a system of white supremacy? Well, we're all gonna die, so it can't mean that. And then some of the greatest scholars that we have in Black society or Black community, Pan-Africanists, were born into and died in a system of white supremacy. So did they not make it? Like that thing, that's crazy. And he said a lot of y'all, as if, okay, I'm over here and y'all are over there. It's a bit of an elitist statement, as if he's not a slave down in the slave ship as well. We're all slaves at the bottom of the slave ship. He may have more knowledge than us in certain regards, in certain fields, but unless the system of white supremacy is replaced, all you can do is live better or more comfortably in the system. If it's still here, if the system still exists, then you're only going to live more comfortably within the system. So is that making it? Like, it didn't make any sense for the brother to be as intelligent as he is. It didn't make any sense to me. And like I said, it's elitist. It's okay. I'm over here. I'm gonna make it because I have this knowledge. No, you're not gonna defeat white supremacy on your own. So I don't understand what it means. A lot of y'all, and he said a lot of y'all, not some of y'all. A lot of y'all ain't gonna make it. So I may have to actually, actually tweet him and ask what that means, because again, like I said, I think it's a bit of an elitist statement. We're all going to die. We may die within the system of white supremacy. So does that mean that we didn't make it? Um, Again, if the goal is to end white supremacy, then even those who you may refer to as a coon or a slave identified Negro, did they make it? Because now they live through the system of white supremacy being ended and a system of justice being established. Did they make it? Uh, so, but if they if they are going to be the smartest people in the room, because this is what I'll see on Twitter, that uh you don't know anything unless can quote Dr. Clark or Dr. Ben or whoever, right? You name the African scholar or Pan-Africanist scholar. You don't know anything unless you know their work and you can regurgitate what they written in books. But we have to understand that many of them were born into and died within the system of white supremacy. So did they not make it? And this is no disrespect for them, but this is just asking a question. We have to be able to ask questions without people getting offended, because I'm not taking shots at any of the scholars, but I'm just asking a question. So what does that mean? Making it. What it has no. It's just like I don't know. But anyway, let's keep going. So again, if they're going to be the smartest people in the room, they're going to come off as a bit of an elitist, then we're going to have to own they're going to have to own providing real solutions to some of the problems that we have. you know it it Pan-Africanism, from my standpoint, is coming off a bit reactionary, right? It meaning, I just saw not too long ago. I don't know if it was last year. I can't exactly remember, but they celebrated the 100th year anniversary of Marcus Garvey movement. So that means they had 100-year head start on the FBA and ADOS movement, but didn't see that coming. That didn't see that movement coming, and then that movement came, and then now it's okay. We're only now our only thing is to react to that movement and say how incorrect it is and how the movement is started. You can't unring that bell now that that movement has started. You can talk to your blue in the face. You're not going to get those people off that particular square, if that's where they want to be. But there obviously was a void there, and uh those movements came along and filled that void. I want to play a clip here, and this will, and I agreed 100% with this. This comes from one of Omar Wale's most recent streams. I can't remember. I'll put the links in the description, so you can take a look and watch the video in full context. It's very good information, very good background. His analysis, I think, is excellent, and he has another brother on there. I think his brother's name is Ima Odo. Their analysis together is very excellent, is on point. Analysis is spot on, but So let me set the clip up. Actually, I don't want to keep talking. But let me set the clip up. So the clip, Omawali is trying to introduce something about Pan-Africanism. In from my point of view, to me, he's acknowledging uh, some or an area of opportunity, as they like to say in the SWOT analysis. Right? He's he's identifying an opportunity of Pan Africanism, and I'll just let you'll understand once I play the clip.
1,000%. I just think that it's also very important for us to also create space within the framework of Pan-Africanism. It's important for us to create space for the specificity, to use their term, the specificity of regional struggles that happen around the globe. And what I mean by that is,
yeah, they want to say regional, but they don't want to deal with our region because they don't want to deal with the people in our region that create the problem. So it's an ecological problem. It's a problem of ecology and environment because of who we exist who we exist in proximity to in our environment in the Western Hemisphere.
yeah,
So
but
the
it's
thing is,
but
we have
but
black
isn't it?
countries, we don't have the same issues.
Isn't it important to be able to raise the consciousness of our people from wherever they are, wherever they enter into the struggle, and it becomes difficult to raise the conscience if you are completely dismissive of some of the arguments. For an example, hold on, bro. Let me finish my thought. I did an entire lecture series called and it's available on the War College. It's called The Ethnic Cleansing of Black America and the Black Immigrant Paradox, where I was breaking down from a foreign policy perspective, but also how the U.S. here and the States uses kind of like the immigrant situation as a form of political dilution, right? How they have a multifaceted strategy. So
yeah, immigration is the replacement for antebellum enslavement. Absolutely.
Okay, so let me go in here into this particular portion, right? So he had just stated about the immigrants, and this is one of the complaints that both of those groups have made, that immigrants are coming here and undermining Black Americans. And right before this particular clip, Omawali stated, absolutely, he acknowledged absolutely 100% that immigrants coming here and, he used air quotes and I'm using them as well because I don't typically use this phrase either. But for those who do use this code or use this phrase, excuse me, when immigrants come here and then they are off code, then they should receive the smoke that they're receiving. And he, stated, obviously, if, Black Americans went anywhere in the world and in Africa or Caribbean or, the UK, anywhere Africans are, and then let's say Black Americans went there and then they start undermining them and said, hey, no, you don't need this. No, you don't need that. This is what you need. If we went there and did that to them, we'd be, in air quotes again, off code, and we should receive any smoke that we're getting. And so he's saying here, so shouldn't Pan-Africanism hold a space for, for that? Should Pan-Africanism hold a place to acknowledge that, right? To address that concern, okay? And let me keep going here.
So isn't it important for the brothers and sisters, for an example, right? Who, let's say that they are within the integrationist stream of our fight, right? The broader civil rights movement here in the U.S. And those brothers and sisters, wherever they are, because a lot of us, some of our strongest fighters started off in the integrationist stream. You have Robert F. Williams, who starts off with the NAACP. You understand what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to raise here is, isn't it appropriate for brothers and sisters who have lineage here, for them, if they see that the U.S. or white supremacist institutions are strategically basically saying that, hey, we are actually meeting the needs that y'all fought for, because look at all these black people that we have in our institutions. And then when you start to kind of like scratch beneath the surface, like, yeah, you have black representation there, but none of those black people are the black people who were involved in the fight to get in those institutions. Isn't it appropriate for them to be able to raise that?
Well, it is.
And see, he asked the question, isn't it appropriate for Black Americans and those who are in those movements to raise these type of questions? Legitimate. And this is why I rock with the brother, because he's being honest in terms of he sees the issue. He sees the issues that's going on, and some of them are legitimate issues. Some of them aren't, right? Some of those issues are just not legitimate at all, but nonetheless, it's just our people. We have so much toxicity or the poison, as from the racism, the internalized racism, man, that we just poisonous to each other. And the brother Emo Odo answers the question here. So sorry, I know I'm as if y'all have seen this before, and I've seen it twice or 3 times now. But so Omawale Africa is his channel, and he's holding the discussion. And Emo Odo, he's not cammed up, but that's who is going to answer.
It is appropriate, but you also have to realize that many of the champions of our people were forced to leave organizations that their ideology grew beyond. So the thing is, when you look at W.B. Du Bois, for example, when he joins the NAACP, he has a very distinct mission or a distinct idea of what the solution is. When he starts to become faint or disillusioned with the idea that he once had, and starts to understand that he's trying to teach these white people to change their minds, and that they will not change their minds, that's when he begins to radicalize. And that's when he starts to become dissonant with the NAACP, and starts to understand he needs to leave that organization and form a new one. So it's the same thing with Kwame Ture. It's the same thing with Ella Baker. It's the same thing with, I can run through our history.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
our people. They leave organizations that are beholden to white benefactors that will not change.
I'm talking about the fresh.
I apologize. Also, the audio from Brother Emo Odo, he was having, I guess, some audio issues with his phone. So I do apologize about that. So it's nothing I can do about it. So I do apologize.
Even if it's elementary, for it not to be stamped out. And what I mean by this, right, is if we understand that the system of white supremacy works through divide and conquer wherever they are, and if there's not a way to divide and conquer the population, they create the tribalism. They'll figure out how to implement it so that it becomes a part of the framework that they control. Isn't it important for that anger that brothers and sisters in the so-called ADOS, FBA movements, the legitimate anger or frustration that they have with how the immigrant population is used against them strategically? Isn't it important for that discussion to be had publicly so both sides can be educated? Because you would want our brothers and sisters who are migrating for them to also understand how they are being used, so that conversation can occur. Like, I think, isn't that an importance so that we can sharpen the analysis on both sides?
You're right. It is important to have, but I think the problem I think that you're right. The problem is the terms on which the conversation is being had.
Yeah.
So the problem is the terms that Pan-Africanists have these conversations are completely unacceptable to people who identify very strongly as Americans.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so right here, and I wanted to say this, and I'm going to say it early because here's, and I'm going to get into this again, but actually, let me just get into it now. So one of the things that I see that is a big talking point or a big issue with Again, they're talking about the same people that I'm talking about, those who are members of the FBA, which is Foundation of Black Americans. It's not an organization. They say it's not an organization, whatever. Lineage, whatever. Okay. And then ADOS, which is American Descendants of Slavery, right? I think they were an organization. Now they changed it and it's kind of just a lineage, whatever. So one of their gripes is, and it is legitimate, I'll say this, is that they're in order for, and they did this based on a reparations thing, and I'm going to talk about reparations in one of the live streams in further detail, but to identify the group that was affected or who's owed reparations. Let me just say it that way, right? They are owed reparations. They are, descendant of the Africans formerly enslaved in the United States, and the United States government owes them a debt. They were Jim Crowed and redlined and so forth, right? These are to properly identify us from or to carve out our own lineage space. And that is a legit argument, because one of the things which I do not disagree with that we are is that Pan-Africanist state that, okay, we're African. Okay, I agree with that. Okay, now let's go further. What is our ethnicity, or is there some way to identify our particular lineage? Me, I'm not big on the American thing. Hell, I was in the military and I'm not big like these guys. I've never put an American flag in my bio or none of that. That's not me. But whatever, to each his own. I'm not going to argue with you if you put American flag in your bio. That's on you. I'm just not going to argue with you about what you do on your Twitter page. Silliness to me to argue with someone about that. But to just say we are African, to use an old African saying I got from a friend of mine, we're like salt in the soup. Okay? All the other Africans and all throughout the planet can call themselves Africans or Nigerians, Ghanaians. Then they can go down through the tribes, Yoruba, Igbo, Fula, whatever it is, whatever. They can go down. The Haitians can call themselves Haitians. The Jamaicans can call themselves Jamaicans. And then this group of Black Americans came along and said, wait a minute. Now we just say we're okay, we're all African, but we're a different in terms of our culture. We've diverged. We've had an experience here in the United States that no one else has had. Africans can come from anywhere else on the planet and come here, but they haven't gone through the same thing that we have. So if you just say, hey, we're African, we're like salt in the soup. We're there, but you don't see us, or we're not like the carrots or the onions or the celery or the potatoes and the meat or whatever. That's all the other Africans and Caribbeans. They're distinguishable in the soup, if you will. Black Americans are like the salt in the soup. They're there, but no distinguishing qualities, because we're just all African. And that's one of the gripes that I see a lot of times, and one of the arguments. And I just, so for the life of me, if I had the answer, I would just answer it and just constantly repeat that answer. But I don't see anyone who's calling themselves a Pan-Africanist solve the problem. Meaning, okay, ADOS, FBA, I don't know who else, it's 1,000 of them now, right? American freedmen, American Indians, whoever else, right? I can't keep up. If they're all wrong for using the term American, okay, no problem. What is the right answer? And I don't ever see that coming up. From your knowledge of African history, uh, whatever your analysis, what would you call the people here in the United States that went through all of the what I've the redlining, the Jim Crow, the chattel slavery? What would you call those people? Yes, we're African, but what would you call that lineage? What would you call that ethnicity? African American is not a good term. It's not even our term. African American term has been around since 1782. That was given to us by somebody white and reintroduced to Jesse Jackson, I believe, in '89. I remember when he did the press conference talking about calling African American, and it was I saw a news articles talking about how Black Americans accepted him. Like, we never accepted it, not because it's just had an African term. It was just because, hey, just like all the other names that we've had since we've been here, it's been thrown onto us. So at what point, if Pan-Africanists have if they have the answer, then okay, yes, we're African, but just like a Haitian is a Haitian, yeah, he's African, but he's also gets to say, okay, hey, I'm Haitian. And that identifies their particular struggle in their particular locale. Jamaican, uh, Nigerian, Sierra Leone, you name it, Ethiopian. I mean, you name it. They then within that they even have their own. And I'm not saying for us to become more tribalistic, but in terms of if we got it wrong by calling ourselves Black Americans or whatever, FBA and ADOS and American Indian. Okay, no problem. If that's wrong, then what is right? Don't just keep saying, hey, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're slave identified that. But okay, well, what's right? Okay, we're African, got it. Yes, our culture is a little bit different than African culture, but it came from African culture. I don't even argue with, why am I going to argue with anybody who disputes that our culture came from Africa? The drums, we didn't get the drum beats and all the. Why I gotta argue with anybody? The food that we eat, it may be a little bit different, but it came from Africa. It's silly. I'm not even arguing with anybody about that. Okay, so no problem. We're African, no problem. Then what's the correct way to identify our lineage or ethnicity, whatever you want to call it? That has to be solved, and it's not being solved. And then I'm gonna let this play because Omawali says something that's profound, and I wish he got a chance to expound upon it here. Brother Emo was he was ready to answer it, but he didn't really get a chance to finish his complete thought. He got cut off a few times, but that's why I had to play this clip so long. But here's this portion was brilliant here, I thought.
But as a part of but I'm just saying, no, I don't disagree with that at all. I'm just saying though, but just, even those of us who are Pan-Africanists, as a part of this conversation, don't we have to figure out a way to address
because
that?
you have the same problem in
lens.
Africa of people wanting to identify.
So he was trying to say it, and the brother cut him off. As Pan-Africanists, we have to figure out a way to address it. And he was talking about the being the specificity because he used that word.
As Americans. So that's why I said it's a colonial problem, but people don't want to deal with the full strength and capacity of what colonialism does to people's minds because they suffer from it. So they don't want you to deal with that. So when you deal with that, you start calling them out. And
okay, there's what you call it on the screen here. The immigrants definitely don't understand how they are being used. This to me was another breakdown where Pan-Africanists should have explained to the immigrants coming in, because we all assumed, and I know I did, I'll be honest with you, I know I did, whenever I would meet anyone from anywhere else, and from any part of the world that's African, I did it for so long being Muslim. I would meet a lot of African, and I would just automatically assume that, okay, once you get here, you're going to see how America is. Me and you are going to fight the system of oppression that, you know what I mean? And a lot of ones that I met don't think that way. Unfortunately, not saying that they're bad people, they just don't think that way. You know, they would tell me to go out and vote. They would be bigger, staunch Democrats to tell me to vote for Democrats than I'm scratching my head. I'm like, they don't, neither one of them benefit us. So why would I vote? But, you know, and obviously this is younger. I mean, I understand now, but why would they say that? Because the Democrats, it benefits immigrants more than it would benefit me. So of course they would be more pro Democrat than I would be, you know. But nonetheless, let me keep going here. Here comes the part with Omar Wally. I'm sorry.
They don't like that, so they resent you for it, and then they start doubling down on their arrogant arguments that are completely irrational.
Yeah.
So that's my point. It's like, so what you're dealing with is a psychosis and
Yeah.
denial. You're not dealing with people who are actually rationally thinking and actually want to deal with what you're talking about.
But here's the thing, though, this I find to be very, very important.
Brilliant.
And I've said this in every analysis that I've ever done of the ADOS movement before it splintered into like its different fractions. I said that it's very important to remember that the people who are flooding or rushing to these movements are reacting to a very real sense of feeling like they are being drowned underwater and no help is coming. In many ways, these movements are a cry for help. Like they're screaming.
Look.
I agree with you.
Okay, that was brilliant. That these movements are a cry for help. They're screaming for help. I thought that was brilliant. Brilliant. And at the same time, he identified a problem, or one of the missteps, I should say, not a problem, but, or like I said earlier, an opportunity for the Pan-Africanist movement. Because if they're screaming for help, then it should have been a Pan-Africanist organization or whatever that had that answer. Okay, this is how we should identify for our reparations claim, and it's specific to us. Yes, we're African, but it's specific to us. And only for that, because that's how these movements kind of got started in a sense about reparations or whatever. They sprung out of the we need to get reparations movement or whatever, at least from my understanding. Dr. Claude Anderson, he pretty much the same thing. I think he is reparations, so he was saying Native Black Americans, but nonetheless, that's what I see there, and that led to that led to the what we call now on Twitter as the Diaspora Wars, to where you have just Africans or Black people, whichever term you feel most comfortable with using, arguing back and forth with Black people or Africans from other places, from the continent of Africa. In particular, I'm going to tell you the biggest ones that I see. I could be wrong, but in particular, it's Nigerian versus Black American, Ethiopians versus Black Americans, Jamaicans versus Black Americans. And the brothers in the UK kind of stay out of it unless they're from Nigeria or Jamaica or wherever. Canada, they're neutral too, unless it's again. But you see a lot of vitriol on both sides. So it is not just from the Tariq side. Let me see if I don't know how to do this. No, I can't. I was going to try to bring that up so you can see that. Let's see here. How do I do that? All right, so I was trying to bring up the screenshot there of, well, maybe I'll just do it this way. I was trying to bring up the screenshot of that I used for this thumbnail that it perfectly encapsulates what's going on in what's going on here in the community or what have you. Let me do it this way. I'm gonna talk about it because it's the perfect encapsulation of what's going on. Okay, so if you don't know, the brother on the right is Tariq Nasheed, a film producer, filmmaker. I don't know. He wrote books, author, singer. He does. He has a lot of hats or whatever. Businessman or whatever. On the right is Dr. Umar Johnson. I played him at the beginning. He was explaining the principles of Pan-Africanism. And I think this picture came from the making of Hidden Colors 3, I believe. They were cool back then. That was probably what, 2015, I think, 2015. They were cool back then. And just like they had a falling out, and with that falling out, it's just in terms of these two he fell out with Pan-Africanism also, and he's probably the biggest name in the Pan-African is Dead movement, and of Umar would think is one of the most in terms of pop culture or popular culture, is one of the biggest names in Pan-Africanism, or biggest faces, or biggest uh, personalities, I should say, in Pan-Africanism. And so when I saw that, I was like, yeah, it's perfectly encapsulated just how that splintering went because of really over, and I'm not going to get all into their beef or whatever, but it just understand it was pretty much ego. And you know the the what is it, instead of working to find a solution for the issues that they both say they care about, ego drove them to beef with each other, in my opinion. And the the air is out of the balloon at this point. So I don't see that. It seemed like they tried to be cordial, or just not have but the egos and the pettiness, it comes right back around. So again, what Brother Omwali was saying about the immigrants coming here, if the brothers of the Pan-Africanist brothers were, or sisters, not um, not having the immigrants who came in to work with us here, though them being the facilitators of it, that's an opportunity. And like I said, any of these issues that we're having in the Black community, there should be solutions for it. The parent crisis. Again, I made a video some months back. Not only was it Umar that had an issue with uh, Kevin Samuel's way of dealing with um, the pairing crisis in Black America, but Brother Omawali also had a problem. It wasn't personal with either one of them, because again, I did a video. It's still on the editing room floor, but I did a video uh, talking about mice and men, and I thought it was the epitome, because they understand it, and the reason why they reacted the way they reacted when Kevin Samuels died, even though they may have had ideological differences with Kevin Samuels, and um, even I think Umar, him and Umar may have kind of had a little personal, taking personal shots back and forth or whatever uh, between the two. Whatever it goes, when the man died, you know, they didn't besmirch his name because they understood he's still a black man, or at least in their eye, in their eyes, he's still African. He's still an African brother, and they didn't besmirch his character, even though, they might have stayed on their square of ideologically. I have differences of opinion with the brother, but they didn't appreciate people celebrating the brother's death again. And I'll say it again, because Kevin Samuels was a proxy of all straight black men. But anyway, let me keep going. So all these issues that we're having, the diaspora wars, reparations, the gender war, or the parent crisis, and it's not a gender war, but the parent crisis, and even how Black Americans identify. If Black Americans have a problem with self-identification, then I blame the smartest people in the room, because you should have. If Pan-Africanism has been around over 100 years, and there has been no solution for what Black Americans should call themselves in 100 years, that's a problem. That should not have happened. And then, these movements come along, and then you're upset because these people they have gravitated toward these movements. I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me. To me, how it would be fixed, how can it be fixed? Let's just get to it, because it's not already an hour here. I've been going for an hour already. So how can this thing be fixed? Okay. And it depends on what the goals of Pan-Africanists are, those who are Pan-Africanists. If the goal is we have to get the majority of Black people, Africans, whatever, in any area or locale or worldwide, if we have to get the majority of them to start moving in a Pan-Africanist way, then okay, what do we have to do to get that? And like I said, it depends on the goals. Well, first, there has to be an organization that is visible, that is servicing the people. We understand from just historical records, history, that the most successful organizations, the Nation of Islam, Black Panthers, they had services. The Black Church, in a sense, they had services that they offered people. And I'm not saying in terms of, necessarily charity work, but I mean organizations to, if it's a think tank that solves issues this way. And if there are, I don't know how prevalent they are. I looked up some. I didn't see any that was doing that type of work, or doing that type of thing. I could find organizations all day about, they're helping build up young boys, young Black boys, or young Black girls, or business, or, like, for instance, let me give you a good example. Why, for the life of me, I don't understand how Pan-African is. There isn't I haven't seen a movement, or to match any of the, whether it's ADOS or FBA, or hell, even what I'm seeing in terms of the Black Manosphere on YouTube, to where these guys are having conferences that is offering, tangible results. Yes, it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to educate, Yes, our people need education, but today's Pan-Africanists are never going to out-educate, Dr. Clark or Dr. Wilson or Dr. Welsing. You're never going to be able to out-teach them, because you're only going to really regurgitate what they've taught. So that means if they weren't able to get and again, if that's the goal, if you got to get the majority of people, because I don't see how will counter white supremacy until then. But if you're going to get the majority of people to build whatever it is that we need built, you know, if it's a parallel economy, if it's, you know, obviously for revolution or war, whatever if you can't feed yourself, you're going to die. You know, if they shut off the water in our homes, 3 days we're finished. I mean, there's so many things that if you're going to talk about that needs to be built, a handful of people are not going to be able to build it. You know, you're going to need people who are engineers. You know, just reading the book. You know, I'm a network engineer. That means I configure networks. I build networks. You know, configure routers, switches, firewalls. You know, wireless LAN adapt, whatever. All of this stuff. Yeah, people can read a book about how to do it, but it's not going to be the same as if I do it. I don't have to read a book, you know. So we need people that don't have to read books in order to build what we need built. You know, a water treatment facility if we need it built, or if we need it ran. You know, an electrical grid. So there's going to have to be an organization that solves these problems for people, and it has to be simple solutions. We don't need all the talk. Just talk. Get to the solution. You know, people, you know, especially in the tech field, we don't like a lot of talk. Just tell me the answer. Or tell me the problem, then I'll give you the answer. You know what I mean? Just ask the question. You know, I absolutely hate it. You know, and I'm talking here because it's, you know, I have to explain myself. But when I'm talking to anyone, just ask the question. I don't need all the background. If I need the background, I'll ask you. That drives my wife crazy because I'll be looking at her like, yo, you know what I'm waiting for. Like, she'll give me all these background and giving me all the details. I was like, look, I don't need, just ask me the question. And if I need details, extra details, then I'll ask you for the details. I hate I hate to be that way, but it drives her crazy because I do it all the time, and she'll look at me, she's like, okay, I know, and then ask the question. So we're gonna need that. I don't you know, I looked up Marcus Garvey's UN UNIA organization. I didn't see anything that seemed like it would even benefit me. It was like, why would I join that organization? Right? I'm not going to join. Why would I join an organization that it doesn't seem to be? It doesn't even if based on the and decent. When I say visible, you have to have a web presence in America. You know, for ease of people to be able to find you. So I'm looking at it. I'm just like, this doesn't nothing here. It looks like it benefits me. Okay, in terms of it benefits me in terms of if I, you know, join this organization, it'll give me what books to read. But you know, um, that's great. I don't even know, you know, I don't even know where I could even fit in trying to read something else with family and all I have going on in terms of work, and then I'm trying to, you know, make content and edit content and so forth. I'm like, yo, some days I be like, yo, I don't even know where I have the time. But nonetheless, you know, has to be that. That's going to be there. And there has to be, and I'm sorry, Umar, Dr. Umar, but there has to be a notable, recognizable, trustworthy figurehead because unfortunately, black people, we are uh we are we need um we've been conditioned to where we have to have a leader. That's why I don't understand. I mean, I do understand and I don't understand, right? Okay, so the people running around saying, okay, we got to be on code. 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 Uh, I get it. The code is the leader. I get it, right? Just regurgitating something from Neely Fuller, but Neely Fuller is more logical, and then they are not following Neely Fuller's code. So, but we've been conditioned to where we need a leader. And I can understand the arguments that, okay, if you have a leader, if that leader gets taken out, then the movement dies. But, people will quote the spook who sat by the door. If you remember that, that each man is supposed to learn the duties of the man directly above and directly below. So if anyone gets taken out, that next person can fill the spot. But I get what they're saying, but there's no one universal code. That's one. Two, Neely Fuller even states that his code is not dictatorial. So then, okay, how can you enforce it? You can't. So it has to be up to the people. But we've been conditioned to where we need a figurehead. And if it's a spokesperson, then so be it. We unfortunately going to need that. We need a person to be the trustworthy guy up front. It is what it is. It's just who we are. It's no getting around it. And I'm going to play this. Like I said, it's not a shot at my brother, but this, unfortunately, if you have this representing the Pan-Africanist movement, then this is a big problem. But I love the brother, but come on.
Harvey, baby. Lord have mercy, Sister Danielle. You must not have heard me. Sister Danielle wants to have a Garveyite baby with King Kongalicious. Sister Danielle, and she fine too. Look at them eyes. Sister Danielle, listen, baby. We got to build the nation first. If I give up all my testosterone, I won't have no energy to build the nation. I got to build first. Okay, we must build before the back shots. We must handle the business before the back shots. It is consciousness over the cookies. It is politics over the punani. It is revolution over the romance. Sister Danielle wants to have a baby with King Kongalicious. She fine too. Lord have mercy. Might have triplets. But Sister Danielle, stay focused, my sister. Understand, overstand, and understand that the nation building must come before the back shots. I said the nation building must come before the back shots. Brothers and sisters, we must stay focused. We must stay focused.
Okay, so now that's funny, and it humanizes him, but then it also makes him, it makes a joke out of, if you're calling yourself the Prince of Pan-Africanism, people would take you, would want to believe that you're more serious, at least for me. Now, for me personally, I think it's funny, and I think that's part of his charisma and his attraction, why people are attracted to him, that he's funny, and those things personalize him, and so forth. But in some there's a time and a place, and there's, what I mean, like there's I don't know what's the word I'm searching for, but y'all get the point, right? It there's a time and a place, and sometimes I think some of the missteps that he's made has hurt his credibility. That's why I'm pulling for my brother, Omawali, Africa. In terms of his presence, I think he is down to earth enough. I just think, just going over the next step, I think one of the biggest things is to simply acknowledge the missteps from the movement, because there's been missteps. We can't act like any ideology that any man develops is flawed, and the way that it's funny, because Neely Fuller said this one time, and I was like, I was always thinking that, and that's why I guess I gravitate towards him the most out of any scholar or whatever. I gravitate towards him the most. I think he's one of the most logical, no emotion about certain things. So he said, if man, talking about the white supremacy, if man invented it, man can destroy it. So, with the same regard, if man invented something, there's going to be flaws in it. you know, Pan-Africanism, the thought or whatever the ideology, whatever the movement, there's been missteps. You know, people are gonna make missteps. So acknowledge those things and then just, hey, look, this is it. I would start with, okay, yes, we're African, but how would we identify Black Americans? I would start there. Not saying to try to make another movement, but man, Black Americans have never named themselves. And then when they do, then and like I said, I don't have to agree with it. I understand it. But Black Americans, yeah, they might have identified with slavery or identified with America, but they chose to name themselves. And when have we ever had that? You know what I mean? Like, when in this country have Black Americans ever had the chance or the name themselves? Who's always been given a name. The white supremacists did the naming. And here, maybe again here, they did it here. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know who told whoever to name these lineages this or whatever, but nonetheless, you know, if that's a problem, then, give us the right solution. And then here again, I'm gonna play this. This came from the end of one of what was this live stream for Omawali. Uh I think it was about Tariq and what's that guy's name? Dane Calloway. I'm gonna call him Dame Calloway. Dane Calloway. I think it was from that live stream, and it was talking about the Black American identity crisis. And I think it was almost 3 hours. I think it was. And I'm gonna play Emo Odo's. I thought what he said was profound, but there was still one thing that he did not do in the his closing argument.
Closing remarks. Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation was based on identity and what was it, Black African or slave identified. I think it begins where it started with naming, with knowing the name of a people, knowing the names of peoples that ultimately come together. I feel like, the point you made about California, uh, you know, how many Black people in California are descendants of people who were enslaved in the 19th, 18th century, like,
In California.
yeah, in California. Sorry,
Yeah.
but the point I'm making is, it's like, that question is almost hilarious if you know American history, but that's but you see what I mean. So it's like people who are not even really interested. Like, to me, ground floor, you got to know what happened before you can start talking about solutions.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why sometimes, people, they come in with their head full, thinking that they got an angle on somebody or but ignorance is always going to bear itself out. And I feel like the people who do know are oftentimes the people who ultimately will be turned to.
Okay, I agree with that, right? So the people that do know, that's the people that will get turned to. Now, if you brothers are the people who know, start offering solutions. Okay. He's telling us about the people who don't know, so I would assume that you do know. Now start offering the solutions and people will gravitate towards it.
That's why, those of us who are teachers, I mean, I work with real little kids and I work at the college, so it's like you have to be prepared to meet people where they are with the information that's necessary to get them where we're all trying to go. So I think, and I'll end with the identity piece. I love the quote. It's a Wolof proverb. I don't know it in Wolof. I know the translation, where basically it says, no matter how long a log sits in a river, it will never be a crocodile. Let me say that again. No matter how long a log sits in a river, it will never be a crocodile.
Okay, and that's in reference to Black Americans, no matter how long we've been here in this land, we're still African. Totally agree. No problem. Okay, no problem. Now, in that framework, we're okay. If you have no problem, and again, because this is the argument. My I always say to my wife in terms of our children, I'm going to take away all the excuses. Let's take away the excuses. You have no excuse for why you can't be successful or do this or do that. Just take away the excuses. So if uh, these movements are saying, hey, we need to be able to identify ourselves for whatever. Okay, yeah, we could be, we're African, no problem, but we're not the same as Africans who came over here in 2019. We're not the same in terms of, we're all, oh, no problem, we're all African. All right, cool. But if you have no problem, and this is one of the arguments that I see all the time, and I see nothing but deflection come from it. I'm like, why deflect if you have the answers? Just to answer the question. I don't have the answer, so I can admit when I don't have an answer, no problem. But if someone's saying to you, hey, do you have a problem with a Haitian calling themselves Haitian? I see a deflection. If a Haitian can call themselves Haitian and you have no problem with that, if a Jamaican can call themselves Jamaican, Nigerian can call themselves Nigeria. I think those names are, yeah, we may not be American. Okay, no problem. What is it then? If you have no problem with a Nigerian saying, hey, I'm Nigerian, or even worse, I'm Nigerian American, or calling themselves by their tribe, hey, I'm Igbo. They might not say I'm African. If you have no problem with that, then okay, no problem. Then it should be no problem if Black Americans say, hey, yes, I'm African. Okay, now we want to take on a name for our ethnicity. And fine, if you don't agree with Black American, give them the proper term instead of just saying, hey, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Okay, but it was right. So take away the excuse. And again, I don't use the term. I understand why they came up with it. Whatever. I'm just not going to argue with people who identify that way. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you about what you want to call yourself. It's just a silly waste of time.
Now I can say that differently. Now Audley Moore from Cobra, she has a quote that's similar.
Let me fast.
It doesn't make
he's going to say
some things.
He's going to say this
some
thing
things.
in
I'm not going to chase you around.
Yeah.
Just because you off your center and you're being Afrophobic and you're in denial of who we are. I don't chase people around like that. Now, depending on how hard they come in, sometimes you might have to defend yourself and you shoot back a little bit, clap back a little couple jokes, haha, white flag, American flag, it's that simple. Carlton, we can call them, those kinds of people, we all know those jokes, but that's why I said these people, they don't even know. You come in with an Oreo argument and then, you don't understand what's, yeah. So like I said, some things are just very plain. They're simple. And, just know that you will have those people. You're going to have to deal with them, whether you're in Africa, whether you're here, whether you're in the Caribbean. You have Negroes on all sides of the ocean. You have coons on all sides of the ocean, just like you have Pan-Africanists and revolutionaries.
Ignorance knows no borders. Ignorance knows no borders.
Yeah. So
all right. Appreciate you, brother Emo. All right. I appreciate the super chat, Sister Awa.
Super chat.
Appreciate the super chat, brother Wisdom Bars. Last one I'm going to read. It says ADOS and FBA talking points wouldn't hold any weight in the Congress on the Congress floor. Saying a debt is owed or cut the check isn't policy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And like I said, I'm going to cover that in the reparations joint. They go back and forth about who's serious and who ain't serious and about the reparations thing. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, so I think this conversation lasted about 3 hours. The brother had very good information, very good analysis, just one problem that I saw after the 3 hours, and you're talking about Black Americans have an identity crisis. Very good analysis, very good info, but at the end of it, there still was no, okay, Brother Emo was just saying how, okay, well, we could jab back and you got an American flag, you got the white flag, whatever. Okay. So what should Black Americans call themselves? Like I said, if I don't even get, okay, uh, even using the term African American, you still have the American in it. So because I saw some, I don't know if, again, I don't know if they're Pan-Africanists. They say they are. I'm going to take them at their word. They are. Okay, whatever. On Twitter, and I should have brought those up. I'm already an hour and a half, and I'm almost finished here. I didn't want to bring too much information. I didn't even play all the clips that I had, actually. But I see some of them say, okay, well, use African American because we're using the African, and I said, but it's still using American. So then it's a I don't get it. It was like, okay, if we're not American, why would we use that? Why would we use that at all? And I don't. And then yes, I don't know. It just befuddles me sometimes because I'm like, well, you're still using African American. I don't get it. You're not just running around here in the U.S. saying, hey, I'm African. Someone to ask you, and then no, I'm African American. Okay, then you're still using the American term. And then someone else says, "Hey, I'm Black American," or again, I don't use this term, but someone says, "Hey, I'm foundational Black American." I don't understand. I mean, I get the difference to a certain degree, but again, I would prefer us naming ourselves as opposed to someone else naming us all the time. It's just always been that way. But anyway, I'm gonna play one last thing, and I think this is the biggest thing. You know, again, I know what I don't know, that I don't know a lot, but I'm a big proponent of practice what you preach, or excuse me, I'm sorry, practice what you know. Practice what you know, even if it's a little. Consistent practice of what you know, even if it's a little, is better than knowing a lot and not practicing any of it, or practicing very little of it. And I think we have a problem with that in our community. So many people know so much stuff but don't practice it. Like, it always cracks me up when uh, people, especially when they state the code and then they state Neely Fuller, and I'm like, or not just Neely Fuller, but Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She said it also. They talked about the 10 basic stops. Just stop. Black people should just stop doing 10 things. And I'll see people quote them, and I was like, they don't even do those 10 things. But they could quote the whole book, but they don't even do the. I'd rather know, just if I only knew those 10 basic stops, but I practiced them consistently, as opposed to knowing the whole book, and I practice very little of it. But one of the things that I try to practice, that I understand, is this concept by Neely Fuller that he came up with. He calls it VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. And I'm gonna give a simple term of it because this clip, I want to play this clip I shouldn't play this clip in context. I'm gonna fast forward some of it. Yeah. Anyway, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Basically, if let's say we're all victims of a crime. Back in the 90s, it was, if you had any type of soft top, your car was getting broken into. I don't care what kind of alarm you had on it. So a lot of us were victims of car break-ins in the 90s. Well, it still happens now. But let's say we have 10 people, they're all victims of a car break-in. Now, as victims of that particular crime, no one can tell me how to react to that particular crime. As a matter of fact, nobody can tell any of the 10 victims how to react to that crime. Maybe one person cries. Maybe the other person goes out and get the hammer and he's going out looking for the people who might have jacked him. You know, someone else files a police report. Someone else doesn't do anything. We can't tell those people how to react to being a victim of that particular crime because they were the victim. So it is totally on them how they reacted to being a victim of that crime. Well, it's the same with Black people. We are victims of a crime or crimes, ongoing white supremacy. So Neely Fullest was just simply, as a victim, you could react to it any kind of way. Since no one has come up with a solution to end white supremacy, and our brothers sometimes, or brothers and sisters on the Pan-Africanist side, act as if Pan-Africanism is an absolute, it is guaranteed. It's logical. Like I said, it makes logical sense. It's a theory. It's a logical theory. It has evidence based. It's evidence based. You know, theories aren't just guesses. They're evidence based. But it hasn't ended white supremacy. And like I said, I saw a Garvey celebration. Not sure what was being celebrated. If the goal is to end white supremacy, I saw a quote from Neely Fuller say that once. That he stated, "We shouldn't be celebrating anything except for the end of white supremacy. Like, what are we celebrating for? Like slaves on the plantation. They're on the plantation, and then it's Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever it is, and you know they got some butter biscuits, and they're happy to be. You're still enslaved. We're still in white supremacy. What are we really celebrating for? But that's a whole nother talk show. But anyway, so as victims of white supremacy, we can react to that victimhood any way we see fit, and we shouldn't argue about how another victim reacted to that crime. And I'm gonna play this here.
Sure. You have a race that's never been seen before. That's what my book is supposedly a little premier elementary school, you might say. Here again, I think I addressed this before under VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Neely Fuller is not qualified to criticize any other victims' sayings, what they say about race, racism, and or counter-racism. Why? Because of Victims Guaranteed Qualification.
Yes, sir.
That's something that I invented to keep black people from arguing with each other about the racial thing,
Yeah.
which has become a perennial sport.
It's funny. He said it about just a racial thing, but we're arguing about everything. And he said it's become a perennial sport. I mean, we black people are arguing about everything. I mean, oh my goodness. You know, the Golden State Warriors just won the championship a couple of days ago. Black people are arguing about whether or not Steph Curry is top 10 all time. It's insane the amount of arguing that we do. And unfortunately, again, I see a lot of brothers and sisters who state that they're Pan-Africanists arguing. I mean, it baffles. I don't, like I said, I'll see this stuff and I just be like, oh my God. Someone can say, hey, I'm an American Indian. Ain't tag nobody. Didn't say you should identify that way. Boom, here comes somebody. You ain't no, and you a slave. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, if the person want to, why are you arguing? It's a waste of time. We can't get anything done if you're going to argue all day. Oh my God, yo, VGQ will cut that arguing out. If it's one concept, I was telling a friend of mine, I said, man, if there's one concept we take away from the book, it's VGQ. We'll stop arguing overnight if we all practice it. Man, okay, he said what he said. Now I'm going to say what I'm going to say and just leave it at that. Meaning, and I don't have to tag him. I don't have to call him a name. I don't have to. In fact, sometimes I don't even have to say anything. We're African. Okay, why I got to argue with anybody if I got the truth on my side? You know, that happens to me with clients that I work with, and you know, being a network guy, I always interface with technicians of different strengths. They have different I can't think of the word I'm looking for. They work in different fields, and some of the most that I don't like working with is the database administrators, the SQL database administrators specifically. Those guys drive me. It's always an issue with those guys. You know, the SQL database, if you know, not to get too technical, but if they're calling records and, you know, they're having API calls or whatever, and for whatever reason it's slow, it's always a network issue. Right off the bat, these guys will start telling me about what the network is not doing, and there's some congestion, and why is the network slow, and it always turns into I have to prove it ain't the network, that it's his database or the server, which I don't really care. Once I prove that it's not a network issue, I'm done. So I don't even say anything. For the most part, I don't even say anything. So hey, it's no problem on the net, it's no problem on the network. I'm not going to argue back and forth with, did you do no? And I'll ask them when it's yeah, it's got to be the network. Okay, so what do you think it is? Okay, you go ahead and tell me, what do you think it is, and then I'll troubleshoot that part. And then when it turns back to, it's not this or whatever, So with that, I'm not arguing with anybody who says, hey, I'm this or I'm that. It just cuts down on the confusion. And if we understand white supremacy, that's one of the major tools, is to cause confusion and cause as mass confusion as they can. Keep the victims confused. As long as they're confused, as long as the victims are confused, you can be controlled. And then when you stop being controlled or confused and they can't control you, then direct violence. They use direct violence against their victims. But we just make it easy for them to confuse us because we want to argue with somebody, because we want to be right. I don't care if you call yourself whatever. I don't care. You know what? I don't care. Call yourself whatever. But if you want to work on this particular problem over here, you have some expertise in it. Okay, I'll work with you. And then when you want to call yourself this, I'm gonna go this way. And okay, have a nice day. We'll work together again. It's just like with the database administrator. Hey, you go over there and do your database stuff. I'll do my network stuff. When I got to prove to you that it's not a network issue, then I'm going back over here and you go over there and fix your database. Same concept, but let me keep playing this here.
All right. This arga. I mean, barbershop arguments about the racial situation that go on and on and on and on and on. But I say everybody just says whatever they want to say.
Okay.
And then everybody else leave whatever is being said alone, saying, well, that's what the person said.
Right.
That's what the code book specifically says I'm supposed to do.
VGQ.
I'm supposed to say VGQ, which means Victims Guaranteed Qualification, and she said what she said about race.
Okay.
All right? And that's all I can say.
That's all you can say.
So anything else that you want to know about what she said, anybody in the world wants to know why she said it and all like that. Consult the lady who said it. Don't consult me. I'm not the one who said it.
Right.
That's the procedure. We need a
Okay, so and that goes for any of the issues that we have here. If they haven't been solved, then who's to say you're more right than I am about solving a particular issue? And that's the only reason why I'm doing this, because it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe I might have this. I don't know. So let me just say, okay, you know what? Put down some. Just put it. What would I do? It may or may not work, but guess what? We ain't solved the problems yet, so I'm not going to argue with you about it. If you got a better solution than me, then no problem. Put it on the table. And one of the other things, I'm not going to play that. One of the other things that Neely Fuller said, and which so many people do not do, is one of the things he stated that we should never get together and argue about problems or discuss problems. We should only be discussing solutions. It's brilliant to me. Meaning, and I do this when, I don't know, I do this when I'm talking to even my family. A lot of times I'll do this. You know, I have guys working with me or whatever. It's like, look, come to me with a fully fleshed out solution to a particular thing that we're trying to get done. And then we just debate and implement one of the solutions. I'm not going to sit and discuss the problem for 5 hours and then try to come up with a solution. No, we know the problem. You come fully flush out a solution and then present the solution ahead of time. I can review it and then we discussed it. Okay, I got questions. Here, okay, your solution says this. Okay, all right, what about this? And we don't do that. We just get together and discuss problems all day. And like I said, we don't even come up half the times, like especially in the YouTube spaces. I don't see a lot of solutions. I just see a lot of opinion shows. So to me, one of the things that would, and like I said, again, it's up. And I'm saying this is premature because I don't know what the end goal of those who are Pan-Africanists, what are you trying to accomplish in terms of garnering people to the cause? Black people have shown that they will get behind something and they will get behind it financially. We saw Tariq Nasheed raise $1 million, not sometime last year, whenever it was. I don't just go in and try to clown the people who gave. I didn't give any money to it. I mean, I understand real estate. I'm like, there's no ROI for me on that real estate deal. Getting my name up on the wall, that wasn't sufficient enough for me to give any money towards that. But guess what? Those people who did, they are adults, they have agency, they gave what they felt like they could afford to give away. More power to them. And it ain't the flex that people think it is by calling Tariq a pimp and a this and a that. I like it. Kind of makes people look silly if this pimp can get certain things done, especially when that pimp had to bury some of the or pay for the funerals of some of the scholars and some of the people fighting out here to get justice for Black people. But then again, street dudes have always done certain things like that in the past or whatever. I don't know. But it's not the flex that people think it is. It's like it's not going to stop him. The only thing that's going to, if you have a problem with Tariq Nasheed, people getting on making YouTube videos is not going to stop him. The only thing that's going to stop him, or at least I would say slow him down, or you have to counter him, just like with white supremacy. People take the logical approach to just like with white supremacy, there has to be a counter racism. If white supremacy is racism, there has to be a counter racism to Just like Neely Fuller's statement all the time is, you have with if you get bit by a snake, there's venom that comes from the snake. Well, you have to have anti-venom. Well, you have to have anti-racism to deal with racism, which I would say, if you have white supremacy, then you need Pan-Africanism to deal with it. But that's just my opinion. But so if you want to deal with someone like Tariq, just get on the thing, and people bringing up his white mother-in-law. It's like, it's silly. I was like, are people juveniles? You bringing up his white mother-in-law and all this silliness. I'm like, that's not going to stop. Who doesn't know his mother-in-law is white at this point? I mean, just silliness. I swear. But to keep the argument down, build something that's going to counter him. He's built his brand, and he's built his credibility up. When he collects money for whatever project he's doing, people feel like they got their money's worth because he delivers on that particular project. Well, there has to be somebody that's gonna, if you want to counter him to do that, it has to be that lane, or you just do your own thing. And that's kind of what I do. I was like, okay, well, people have agency. They can donate to Tariq or not. That's up to them. I'm gonna go over here and do my thing and work with people that I know and trust, and do what I feel will help aid to this particular problem that we have. And that's the thing, that if we did VGQ, it'll stop us from all the silly arguing. I mean, my goodness. People 5, and nobody is exempt from it. It's on all sides, because everybody acts the same. I mean, we all got the poison, and you can see it no matter how much education we got. And what I mean by that is the black liberals or the black Democrats. If you say anything critical of the Democrats or the Democratic policies, oh, you're a Trump supporter. You you say anything critical of ADOS and FBA, you must be an immigrant. And our Pan-Africanist brothers and sisters do the same thing. You say anything critical of Pan-Africanists, oh, you're one of them ADOS or ADOS, or you're one of them FBA Tariq minions. I'm like, oh my God. I'm sitting I get when I was saying something, I would get hit on all sides because I'm not a member of any of the group or whatever. By lineage, I would get put in the FBA or ADOS or whatever, because I'm a Black American, but I don't use those terms again. So let me say something critical about it, or I'm an immigrant. All right, whatever. Say something critical about Pan-Africanism, or not even say anything critical about it, just ask a question. Oh, you wanted a Tariq? Oh my God. Say something critical about Democrats. Oh, you're a Trump supporter. I'm like, oh my goodness. So just better for me just not to say anything. You know what I mean? Like, and I like I said, I would mostly ask questions. Just mostly ask a question, and then I get that. So, but VGQ, they said what they said. You say what you say. People will gravitate to what's more correct and right. I feel at some point, I'm an optimist. I believe that if truth is put out there to counter the narrative, but again, it has to be someone who's going to be visible, trustworthy, who builds up the credibility. I think our brother Omawali, he has the I think he has the potential to be that person. That may not be his mission, and that's okay. But it's not going to be Dr. Umar. I don't know anyone else's who's coming along. It's not going to be one of the elders that they're not going to be able to relate to the youngsters. Old men are for counsel, young men are for war. So it's going to have to be someone young. Even the FBI or COINTELPRO, they understood that catching, they had to catch our brothers right before they turned 40. They turned 40. They appealed to the older people and the younger people. So they took our people out of there right before they hit that mark. But anyway, VGQ, man, I think that's the real takeaway. The organizations will get built. The spokesperson, again, I agree with Neely Fuller. I don't know how you can have a leader in a black leader inside white supremacy. White supremacists are the leaders by definition, it being called white supremacy. So a black spokesperson, someone who's standing up front, who's trustworthy. Those are the things that, to me, that's offering real solutions, not just a lot of word salad. But get to the point, make it plain. Okay, you have the background, you have all the background knowledge and information. Sometimes you don't have to give all that. When I'm working, I'll tell a client, okay, this is the solution. I'm not going to go into telling them why, because it's going to get real technical and I'm just going to lose them at some point. So look, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to fix this. This is the solution to your problem. So half the time they don't really care. They just want to know the solution to the problem. Okay, I'm trying to do this. Okay, tell me what you need to have done, and then I'll give you the solution. Okay, we need this. Okay. All right, well, this is what you need to implement. What kind of budget you got? Okay, now this is what you need to implement. Oh, okay, cool. All right. How long is that going to take? Those are usually the next question. How long is that going to take? Okay, no problem. I can have it done and I'll configure. That's what we need to have done. And a lot of times we don't get that, So, but anyway, let me get ready for my fight. It's already 10 o'clock. Been enjoyable being back. I saw the brother pull up. Said it was good to have me back. Yes, I'm back. I'm around. I'm recording videos, but it's just this is a busy time for us network guys. People are getting in their capital expenditures, and the work is really cranking up, and so usually Saturdays are my maintenance windows in terms of taking the network down and repairing whatever I need to repair, or upgrading or refreshing or whatever. So anyway, I'm working. I need to hire someone, but the bad thing about hiring someone to edit the videos, I don't know if they're going to edit the way I want them, or edit out. Or to be an editor, you have to kind of be in my brain, I guess, to edit in a way of what I want to say or the point I want to get across. But anyway, I'm working. So thanks for pulling up, for whoever pulled up. Anyway, so the next few weeks, I will be back, and again on Saturdays, to have these conversations and offer solutions. Again, if you search YouTube or Google for Victims Guarantee Qualification to read more about it. If you have Neely Fuller's books, what is the page numbers? I think it's page 199 in the 199 in the new book, I believe, and it's 407 in the Word Guide. Anyway, I can't remember right offhand, but nonetheless, it's page 407 and 199 in the Word Guide, and the book, in the new book, by the way. Those two page numbers, I think, are the correct page numbers. But anyway, thanks for tapping in, Rebel family. Peace.